Very good evening to you. You're watching Prime Time News on News First. I'm Chaturanga Haparachi, joining you from the main studio set after some time. Hope you are keeping safe and well. Before we head into the stories in detail, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Travel restrictions among the main recommendations of health professionals. The decision must be taken by the government, says health officials. When the country is infected with COVID-19, the government has been infected with pride and is intoxicated on power. A statement from the opposition leader. Professor Tisavitarana unhappy with government's program.
මේ උපදේශක වෛරස විශේෂඥයින්ගේ උපදේශක කොමිටියක් තියෙනවා ඒකේ සමාජිකෙක් වෙලා මාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම පැත්තකට කරලා තියෙනවා.
Laughs gas prices increase. Price of litre gas to remain stable. Milk powder importers stand firm on stance to increase prices. Central Hills hit by heavy rains. Landslide warnings issued to 3 districts. 50 trade unions join teachers and principals in their struggle. Ministers discuss issue at Minister Vimal Veeravansa's residence.
Keeping you updated about the local COVID-19 situation, 156 COVID-19 deaths have been reported in the country a short while ago. With that, 2,420 new COVID-19 infections have been detected in the island. This brings the total COVID-19 case count to 344,499 cases. Meanwhile, the maximum price of a PCR test has been limited to 6,500 rupees, while the maximum price of a rapid antigen test has been set at 2,000 rupees.
Will travel restrictions be tightened?
It is up to the government to decide whether to impose travel restrictions or not. It is something that is always included in our recommendations. Various health professionals in their fields of expertise carry out risk assessments, and these assessments are handed over to the relevant authorities. So all of these sectors decide together on the best course of action for our country. We are doing everything that we can at this moment.
The situation at hospitals. There are 34,365 beds and 224 treatment centers in the country, and 32,440 COVID-19 patients are receiving treatment at these centers. The Ministry of Health announced that the number of COVID-19 patients receiving treatment at intensive care units has increased to 93. 124 COVID-19 related deaths were reported yesterday. The Government Information Department said that these deaths were confirmed by the Director General of Health Services on the 10th of August. The total number of COVID-19 related deaths in the country now stands at 5,464. The availability of oxygen in the country.
Sri Lanka has begun the import of oxygen as a solution for depleting oxygen reserves of the country.
If we need 10 cylinders a day for each patient, we need to have an additional 10 cylinders. Another 10 cylinders must be left at the factory. Thereby, a single person would need a total of 30 oxygen cylinders. I have simplified this. The requirement may vary from patient to patient. If the number of patients who need oxygen increase, we will be facing a serious challenge. I am not saying that there could be a shortage of oxygen in the future. We are currently using the maximum capacity of oxygen produced in Sri Lanka. We have begun importing oxygen from overseas as an alternative to that. But there is a limit on the oxygen that we can import from overseas. If those countries say that they are facing an issue and they cannot export oxygen anymore, what are we supposed to do?
How can you conduct a PCR or antigen test?
If anyone is experiencing fever, a sore throat, a running nose and loss of taste and smell, you should immediately consult a doctor and get a recommendation from him to conduct a test, as you are suspected of having COVID-19. The doctor will decide during which period you need to conduct the rapid antigen test. These symptoms can be seen during the 14-day period after you are infected with the virus. And according to the symptoms that are displayed, the doctor will decide as to if you need an antigen test or a PCR test. What is important is to identify people with these symptoms in the community and isolate them as soon as possible. If you have the symptoms and conduct a rapid antigen test and it returns a negative result and you still display the same symptoms, the doctor will definitely direct you to conduct a PCR test as well. If not, the doctor will advise you to stay separately until the results of your PCR tests come in.
ඉක්මනින් හඳුනාගෙන ඒ අය වෙන් කර ගැනීමට අවශ්‍යයි. ඔබ රෝග ලක්ෂණ තියෙනකොට රැපිඩ් ඇන්ටිජන් පරීක්ෂණය අපි තුමු නෙගටිව් කියලා. මේ නෙගටිව් කියුණාට අපිට බැහැර කරන්නට බෑ. සමහර වෙලාවට ඒ ආසන්න සමය තුළ ඔබ ඉන්න පුළුවන් නිසා ඔබ කොහොමද රැපිඩ් ඇන්ටිජන් පරීක්ෂණ නෙගටිව් වුණාත් ඔබ රෝග ලක්ෂණ තියෙනවා නම් ඔබ PCR පරීක්ෂණයකට ඒ වෛද්‍යවරයා යොමු කරනවා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම. එහෙම නැත්නම් වෛද්‍යවරයා උපදෙස් දෙනවා ඔබට නිවසේ වෙන් වෙලා වෙනම ඉන්න කියලා ඒ PCR පරීක්ෂණයේ ප්‍රතිඵල එනකම්.
Vaccination drive continues.
The mobile vaccination program implemented to vaccinate senior citizens and people with special needs who have not yet received any COVID-19 vaccine in the Western Province began today. The program commenced at the Sri Lanka Army headquarters located in Sri Jayawardhanapura under the auspices of Army Commander General Shavendra Silva. Mobile vaccination vehicles were deployed to Dematagoda, Modara, Colombo 15, Gangarama Mawatha in Mattakuliya, Grand Pass, Colombo 14 and Blumendal, Colombo 15 today. According to Army Commander General Shavendra Silva, medical staff and 10 mobile vaccination vehicles were deployed for this mobile vaccination program.
We were informed that there is a group of people who have not yet received the vaccine as they are confined to their homes and there are difficulties in even bringing them to a vaccination center. So we launched a mobile vaccination program this morning. Thereby such selected individuals were contacted yesterday and informed of the time that we will visit them today. We informed the doctors and nurses involved in this program to vaccinate even other people who may be present at these houses if they are above the age of 30.
The vaccination drive across the country was carried out successfully today as well. 1,222,043 people in Sri Lanka have received the first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine and 868,058 citizens have received the second dose of the vaccine. 9,140,644 Sri Lankans have received the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine and the second dose of the vaccine has been administered to 2,884,051 citizens. 159,081 people in the country have received the first dose of the Sputnik vaccine and 14,516 people have received the second dose of the vaccine. Meanwhile, 251,846 people have been administered the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine and 9,351 people in Sri Lanka have received the second dose of the vaccine. 761,136 people have received the Moderna vaccine. The second dose of the Moderna vaccine has not been administered to anyone in the country as of yet.
Another issue on COVID-19 statistics.
There are serious discrepancies in the COVID-19 statistics that are released. At the meeting of the Gampaha District Secretariat, it was announced that the number of COVID-19 patients reported in the Gampaha district is 12,555. But during those 8 days, the COVID-19 task force had reported the number as 3,729. So there is no information on 8,826 patients there. Also yesterday, they are saying that they have added an additional 33,223 patients who were missing. When the COVID-19 task force said that there are only 45 COVID-19 cases in Batiklo, the Director General of Health Services said that there are 342. When the task force said that there are 71 patients in Trincomalee, the Director General of Health Services said that there are 163 patients. There are serious discrepancies here. The same situation is seen in Ampara. There is an issue on who is being truthful here. This is the government that is playing around and joking. Not only patients, we are also suspicious, even if the deaths that are reported are done in a manner that deceives the people.
Are the statistics related to COVID-19 incorrect? Weren't 7,000 cases of the virus detected in the Gampaha district recorded?
When we received information regarding this issue, we immediately called for a meeting with the regional epidemiologist and other epidemiology divisions to discuss how this had occurred. A similar incident was reported in the eastern province as well. We are currently carrying out investigations with the epidemiology unit to find the root cause of this issue. We will correct this if the statistics currently on the record are inaccurate. There was a previous occasion where a certain number of infected cases were added to the reports on the official COVID-19 caseload in the country. We will keep a close watch on this and continue to make corrections on the reports when necessary.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa said that while the country has been infected with the COVID-19 pandemic, the government is inflicted with egotism, pride and a lack of responsibility. Issuing a press release, he said that the people of the country have to suffer the consequences of these actions. The opposition leader points out that in the face of the current situation, a responsible minister of the government had made a statement that these matters must be left to the gods. The opposition leader highlighted the fact that the government used the COVID-19 pandemic as part of their campaign since the outbreak began, and recalled the false declarations of victory over COVID-19 as part of their campaign for the general election. In the release, the opposition leader states that speaking in parliament, he had pleaded the government on a number of occasions to purchase vaccines for the people and had always brought the matter up during his meetings with foreign delegates. Sajid Premadasa said that the government scoffed at the suggestions and instead promoted the Dhammika tonic. In his release, he recalls how certain parliamentarians brought this Dhammika tonic to parliament and acted as ambassadors for this miracle cure, and how ministers threw pots into rivers in an attempt to promote fiction. The opposition leader said that when the situation in the country worsened and the government began to import the vaccine, the virus had already spread among the community. He points out that he repeatedly presented proposals on when the vaccines should be brought down, how financial and human resources should be set aside for the distribution of the vaccines, and also who should be prioritized in the inoculation drive. But the government had no such plan in mind. He said that countries like Canada had secured enough vaccines for their entire population and are now in possession of excess doses of vaccines, stressing that there are still people in our country who have not received a single dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. The opposition leader said all that he has spoken of has come to pass. The opposition leader said that about 80% of the COVID-19 deaths are people above the age of 60, and added that according to health protocols, they were the group of people who should have been given priority during the vaccination program. The opposition leader said that from the beginning of the vaccination program, the government involved power and politics, and added that the reports on vaccinations being released even today are contradictory. In his release, he stated that every country that defeated the COVID-19 pandemic did so through vaccinating their population. The opposition leader drew from the experiences of countries that were successful in curbing the spread of the virus and said that they had handed over that task to medical professionals, and that Sri Lanka, on the contrary, have disregarded health specialists and are acting on their leaders' own whims and fancies. Sajid Premadasa highlighted that the government ignored the advice of Dr. Malik Piris, Dr. Ananda Vijay Vikrama, Dr. Anil Jasingha and many other medical professionals, and even failed to heed the advice of their very own member of government, Professor Tissa Vitarana, who is a leading virologist.
I
was not consulted in any way to overcome this deadly pandemic. The World Health Organization consists of a consultative committee that is convened on an annual basis. I have been a member of this committee for the past 25 years. Although I have the expertise of consulting several other countries to solve similar problems, my own country has decided to discard me. I do not know the reason behind this either. I was once given an opportunity to raise my concerns regarding the situation. That was because I am a member of the Parliament's Health Advisory Committee. I clearly told the Minister of Health that this must be dealt with as a national struggle. But ever since that meeting, she has not called for discussions with that committee.
අද වෙනකම්ම ඒ තිබුණු රැස්වීමෙන් පසුව ඒ කොමිටිය රැස් කරලා නැහැ.
We are facing a very crucial time as a nation right now. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken over our economy, health sector, education sector, and several other industries today. It is very regrettable that a daily record of over 100 COVID-19 deaths are being reported. As of today, over 5,000 people have died due to this virus. Even the pictures on a pandol are arranged methodically, but the pictures on the pandol our government put up are not in sequence. No one seems to understand it. The story is different. The pictures are different. When you take a close look at this situation, the only thing that is happening is a battle between the ruling and the opposition factions. The people of this country are left helpless. The people will only have themselves at the end. Although the protests launched by the teachers, students and the fishing community are halted at the moment, their struggles still continue. Please look into this matter and provide a solution to it. Therefore, I would like to request the government please hand this over to those who understand this and try and solve it.
That was the political situation and the COVID-19 situation here in the country. With that, we now draw your attention to some of the global news items we have received with regard to COVID-19.
Australia's capital Canberra had announced a snap one-week lockdown after reporting its first locally acquired case of COVID-19 in more than a year. The restrictions, which came into effect today, come as Australia battles to control the highly infectious Delta variant of the virus. Residents will only be able to leave home for essential reasons. More than 10 million people in the country's biggest cities, Melbourne and Sydney, are already under hard lockdowns. Australia has recorded over 37,750 cases and at least 947 deaths since the beginning of the pandemic. A homemade robot designed by the Indonesian villagers and scientists for fun has found a new use during the pandemic, bringing food to self-isolating residents who have contracted COVID-19. An eclectic assembly of household items like pots, pans and an old television monitor, it is now named the Delta robot, and a nod to the highly contagious variant of the virus that has ripped through Indonesia. Meanwhile, experts fear Indonesia, considered one of the world's COVID-19 epicenters, is now a high-risk hotspot for the emergence of the new virus superstrain. Indonesia has reported a total of 3,749,446 cases and over 112,100 deaths.
Let's quickly cross over to a commercial break. More news on the other side. Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available. Sambole.lk. Welcome back to the news. Drawing your attention to some weather-related news. Heavy showers were experienced in several places in the island today. According to the weather forecast issued by the Met Department, showers exceeding 100 millimeters will occur in the western, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces, as well as in the Galle and Matara districts. The showery condition experienced in the northern part of the island is expected to continue in the coming few hours as well. The Met Department says gale winds and lightning accompanied by showers could be experienced in some areas. The National Building Research Organization, or the NBRO, said that landslide warnings have been issued to the districts of Kandy, Nuwara and Ratnapura with the prevailing showery conditions.
The Nagkawita Bridge in Maliboda, Daranigala was submerged after the Sitavaka River overflowed due to heavy rainfall experienced in the area. It was reported that many low-lying areas in Nindagama, Daranigala were inundated due to incessant rainfall. Parusella Bridge in Bulakkohupitiya was submerged after the Mioy overflowed. Many lowlands in the Nagast and Yatiantota were inundated due to heavy showers. This was the manner in which a bridge in Nillaba, Gampola, was caught in strong currents today. It was reported that an earth embankment collapsed onto a house in the area. However, no injuries or casualties have been reported from the accident. Many low-lying areas in the Gampola city have been inundated due to the incessant rainfall experienced in the area. A house in Navalapitiya was heavily damaged due to an earth embankment collapsing onto the house. According to our correspondent, a 3-year-old infant has been inside the house at the time of the accident, and that the infant has been admitted to the hospital due to sustaining injuries. Many low-lying areas in Navalapitiya have been inundated as well. The Navalapitiya-Kandy main road was blocked due to this issue. Lowlands in the Ambagamuwa Divisional Secretariat have been inundated due to heavy rainfall. According to the Ambagamuwa Divisional Secretary, steps have been taken to provide relief to the affected people in the area. Meanwhile, the Hatton-Colombo main road was blocked today after an earth embankment collapsed onto the road in the Ginigathane area. The Muskelia-Norton road was sunk from the Brownlow area today. Meanwhile, Lakshapana, Canyon, Mausakale and Vimala Surendra reservoirs have opened its spill gates due to the heavy rainfall experienced in the central hill area in the island. Assistant Director of the Nuwara Disaster Management Centre, Ranjit Talahakon, advised the residents living in low-lying areas to be vigilant with the spill gates being opened.
On to another headline-making story. The Consumer Affairs Authority granted approval to increase the price of a domestic Love's gas cylinder. Will this solve the gas cylinder crisis in the country? This is a report on this issue.
Both Litro and Love's, Sri Lanka's two suppliers of gas cylinders, repeatedly requested to increase prices, citing an uptick in global gas prices. However, the government did not approve these requests, and subsequently Love Gas suspended their operations, which led to a shortage of gas in the market. However, at a media briefing today, it was announced that only Love's Gas has been granted permission to increase the price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic gas cylinder by 363 rupees. This increases the price of a domestic 12.5 kilogram Love's Gas cylinder to 1,856 rupees. Love's Gas was also permitted to increase the price of a 5 kilogram cylinder of gas by 145 rupees. However, Litro Gas will continue to sell gas cylinders at the previous price. The companies requested to increase the price of a 12.5 kilogram gas cylinder from 1,493 rupees to 1,968 rupees. Also, they requested to increase the prices of a 5 kilogram domestic gas cylinder to 788 rupees from 598 rupees. Thereby, we granted that approval today. In the future, Love's Gas will be able to sell a 12.5 kilogram domestic gas cylinder at a price of 1,856 rupees. This gas cylinder was 1,493 rupees. Also, the gas cylinders previously priced at 598 rupees will be allowed to be sold at 743 rupees. Since the approval was given, Love's Gas can even resume operations from tomorrow. The government is bearing the loss and has taken steps to ensure that Litro Gas sells the gas cylinders without any increase in prices. Whether or not the price of gas in the global market will continue to increase will determine as to how long we can continue to provide Litro Gas at this price. The cost of the concessions given to the people is balanced by the income that the government earns. If the government has no income, they cannot shoulder this responsibility. That is the reason why, in many countries across the world, they have only paid their state employees half of their salary. As the government, we will provide every concession that we can. The amount given to us is less than what was expected. But we thought about our consumers and immediately ordered gas into the country. We have taken steps to bring this down. I believe that within the next 7 days we will be able to get this. It will, however, take about a month for the gap in the market to be fixed. Next month again, they will create a shortage in the market and say that they have to increase prices by 500 rupees. People will have to stand in lines again, and then they will simply increase the price by 500 rupees. That is not the reason why the Consumer Affairs Authority exists. They are supposed to draft rules and regulations, update the Consumer Rights Act so that it will suit the current times, instead of acting according to the whims of large corporations, strengthen the Consumer Rights Act and protect the consumers of our country. We regret that the price was increased by about 300 rupees. Meanwhile, the government has focused their attention on establishing a new gas company under the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. When inquired on the matter, the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, Sumit Vijay Singh, has said that this is still being discussed. Consumers continued to face hardships in purchasing gas cylinders today as well. This was the situation in Palavatta this morning.
gas එනවා කියනවා නෑ කියනවා මේ මිනිස්සු පොලිමේ දැන් මේ ඉඳලා හරියන්නේ නෑ මේවා රජයට පවර ගත්තා නම් ඉවරයි. වත්තර මුල්ල පැලවත්ත මාළඹේ කිසිම තැනක gas නෑ.
Queues of people waiting to purchase gas cylinders were also seen in Kadawatha and surrounding areas. Consumers were also seen standing in lines to purchase gas cylinders in Gaul and surrounding areas. Meanwhile, the Gaul district secretary of the Samagi Jana Balavegya youth, Kanishka Lanarol, carried a gas cylinder on his shoulders and visited the residence of governing faction parliamentarian Minister Ramesh Patirana. We went to shops in our village in search of gas cylinders and couldn't find any. So we carried the cylinder and came to Gaul to try and find it here. But everyone we spoke to here said that there is no gas. So we came to the residence of the Gaul district leader of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Dr. Ramesh Patirana, to see if we can get a gas cylinder, at least from his house.
Milk powder importers claim that the decision taken by the government to remove the taxes on milk powder is not sufficient.
The tax on milk powder was 15 rupees. We have to pay 20 rupees to the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. This would take the value to 35 rupees. The VAT was 65 rupees. The VAT has not been reduced. What has been reduced is the 15 rupees and 20 rupees. While there is a saving of 35 rupees, 32 rupees is taken back. The dollar was 202. Now it's 210. We only would have about 3 to 4 rupees remaining per kilogram.
The milk powder importers are requesting a price increase in milk powder.
There is price control on milk powder. When we have to pay 1,000 rupees to release a kilogram of milk powder from the port, we have to sell it at 945 rupees. Then when you consider packing charges, distributor margins, retailer margins and transport charges, all these would cost 20 to 30%. The problem is that we have to sell a kilogram of milk powder that would cost about 1,200 rupees at a mere 945 rupees. There is a situation like that. There is nothing to hide. There is a method that the country receives dollars. A country cannot print dollar notes. The people who want a lockdown do not have the answer to the question as to how we can bring dollars into the country. Dollars are required to buy dal, milk powder, medicine and even fuel. There is no miracle method to earn dollars. If the production process is halted and if the country is placed under a lockdown for a month, what will happen to the tea industry and the rubber industry and even the coconut industry? What if we don't have any money for the vaccines or money to import fuel?
The Colombo Magistrates Court has issued an order to suspend operations of 4 websites in connection with a 15-year-old girl being sold online. The order was issued following a request made by the Police Children and Women's Bureau to ban the relevant websites.
During the investigation, it was revealed that the trafficking was done through 4 websites that were registered in Sri Lanka. As per a request by the Women's and Children's Bureau, the Director General of the Telecommunications Regulatory Commission has been ordered by court to ban the 4 registered websites which had published the advertisements. Operating these websites, logging into the websites or uploading information onto the websites will be considered a crime. Further investigations are being carried out by the Children and Women's Bureau into the matter.
There was an allegation made that although the websites were suspended, the suspects involved in this incident were not brought before the law. To avoid such things occurring in the future as well, we must make sure that those involved in such criminal activities are brought before the law. Merely saying it is not enough. We need to see the action taken in this regard.
Shifting your attention to a developing story concerning Sri Lanka that is taking place in Japan. 4 opposition parties in Japan have demanded that the case of Wishma Sandamali, the Sri Lankan who died in the immigration centre, be brought before the Parliamentary Committee on Legal Issues.
On Tuesday, Japanese Justice Minister Yoko Kamikawa apologized for the inaction of the immigration center staff in the city of Nagoya, which resulted in the death of 33-year-old Wishma Sandamali from Sri Lanka in March earlier this year. Foreign media reported that the minister promised to take measures to reform the work of immigration centers. Human rights activists insist that the victim was denied the necessary medical assistance. The report filed from Tokyo said the Sri Lankan Wishma Sandamali, then 33, died at the Nagoya Regional Immigration Services Bureau in Aichi Prefecture on March 6th. She complained of nausea and numbness starting on the 15th of January, and her condition subsequently deteriorated. She had been detained at the facility since August last year after overstaying her visa since January 2019. She first came to Japan in 2017 as an international student. The final report acknowledged that Wishma died of illness, but stated that the detailed process leading up to her death could not be determined as several factors likely played a role. The report also delved into Nagoya Immigration Bureau's medical response system. It pointed out that the detention center had a limited medical arrangement. The agency's investigation team probing the background to Wishma's death conducted a total of 139 interviews with 63 individuals concerned and also sought opinions from external specialists.
Representatives of teachers and principals trade unions who have suspended conducting online classes and lectures for nearly a month over the issue of salary anomalies launched a satyagraha in Colombo this morning.
The satyagraha is being staged at Independence Square in Colombo. Trade union leaders representing 50 trade unions of various sectors joined the protest, extending their support to the teachers and principals' struggle. The Cabinet of Ministers that met on the 24th will meet again on the 16th for the 4th Cabinet meeting. The subcommittee is due to present their report at this Cabinet meeting. But even by yesterday, a member of that subcommittee, Mahinda Amaravira, said that this cannot be handed over by next Monday. So this will get postponed to the next week. We have an issue as to if these committees are appointed to kill time. We're asking for the salary that was snatched from us and not for anything more. This is a problem that needs to be solved with brains. It's not a problem that can be solved by force. We're telling the government that enough is enough. A decision needs to be made at the cabinet meeting on Monday. It is clear that they are trying to reverse the struggle of teachers in the form of suppression, but there is no room for that in this country. We ask the government to intervene in this issue without any further ado. No plasters, no abrasions. We want to ask them not to procrastinate.
Moving your attention to some more local news. National recognition was conferred on a group of internationally certified search and rescue operators today at the Disaster Management Centre.
Participants from the search and rescue programs conducted by APAD with instructors from the International Rescue Instructors Association received national recognition in swift water search and rescue. The search and rescue team included personnel from the Sri Lanka Army, Sri Lanka Navy, Sri Lanka Air Force, Police, Civil Defence Force, Sri Lanka Life Saving and the private sector. The APAD International Symposium 2021 on Civil Military Dialogue, organized by the Asia-Pacific Alliance for Disaster Management, was held in Colombo, strictly adhering to COVID-19 guidelines with limited physical participation and virtual global attendance. The symposium was graced by the Director General of the Disaster Management Center, Major General Sudanta Ranasinghe, while the First Secretary of the Embassy of Japan, Hoshiaichi Haru was the guest of honor, along with Dr. Hemantha Herath, the Deputy Director General of Health Services.
It's human responsibility to create safer Sri Lanka. Us, the military, to help them, we are there, and it's our responsibility.
A panel discussion on civil-military involvement in disaster mitigation saw a wide range of views from both the private and public sector being discussed at the International Symposium. The search and rescue group that underwent special training is ready to be deployed to any area that experiences massive floods in the country.
The Rambakanoe Reservoir has garnered much spotlight with the algae species found in its waters and the clearing of land in the area. A group including the convener of the Let's Protect Binthanapattuwa movement, Wasantha Piyatissa, inspected the area to look into these matters.
The members of the Let's Protect Binthanapattuwa organization inspected an abandoned 500-acre plot of land that was once used as a corn cultivation. The group directed their attention to how fertilizer used on the land had washed into the Rambakanoe.
The Rambakanoe Reservoir is on the other side. This is the foot of the hill. This is a 500-acre plot of land located closest to the reservoir. We can see how this 500-acre that was once filled with large trees has been completely cleared. They planted corn and sprayed fertilizer. Due to massive opposition from the public, one of the companies abandoned the cultivation and left. There is a large plot of land on the other side as well. It has only been about 5 months and nitrate has been added to the Rambakanoe. Algae has started growing in the reservoir now. This beautiful reservoir in the middle of the forest has now been destroyed with the short-sighted policies of this government.
The regional manager of the Ampara Water Board had also said that the growth of algae in the river could have been caused by fertilizers getting mixed with the water in the reservoir. 4,500 families who depend on the Rambakanoe for their supply of water have been left helpless. What is happening to the environment surrounding the Rambakanoe, which is considered as an important site both for its rich biodiversity and historical value?
A minute of silence was observed at council sessions of the Pudukudiripu Pradeshiya Sabha and the Maskelia Pradeshiya Sabha in memory of Mr. R. Rajamahendan, the late chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group.
Shakti and Sirasa always stood for the truth. He was an unbiased person. He never took sides. It didn't matter if it was the government or the opposition. He was only interested in the truth. He has a special place in the hearts of the people, and his demise was a great loss to all of us. Through Gammadda, he went to places where no one else bothered to go, and he developed these places and the lives of the people there. Gammadda has a very special place in the hearts of the people. He united all communities in Sri Lanka. There was no room for racism. He went beyond just media. Whenever the public was facing a problem, he went and helped them. He provided drinking water to people, and in times of a disaster, he always came to their aid. Religion, culture and race did not matter to him. Sirasa Shakti is a media station that exposes the truth, no matter what.
Guinea confirmed a case of Marburg virus disease, the first recorded in West Africa of the virus that is related to Ebola and, like COVID-19, passed from animal hosts to humans. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Satwara Kwarati.